Hello everybody. I'm just putting the final touches on my setup here. I'm pretty much ready to go. Should probably do a focus check. That's how I wave. I wave by doing a focus check. We'll start in about 30 seconds. It looks like everything is working well. As you can see, I am inside. So the weather did not cooperate with an outdoor lesson, but it rarely does in November. We'll start in about 7 seconds here. Let me figure out where I'm going to click when we start. Let's just go here. Hello and welcome to this live English question and answer lesson. In this lesson, you'll be able to submit questions using the form. There's a link in the description below. As soon as I click this button, there should now be a link in the description below. If you refresh the page, you can use that link to fill in a form, and you can ask me a question and I will be happy to answer it. You can ask me questions about life, about English, about something that you learned this past week and you're not sure about, maybe in an English class. You can ask me questions about the weather. If you notice right now, let's see here, if we go to this screen, you can see that I do have a camera pointed out the window, but it looks a little gray outside. I always hope that I could do a live question and answer English lesson outside in November, but the weather rarely cooperates. I know it doesn't look too bad, but it is actually raining right now. So it would be bad for me to bring all of my equipment outside on a day like this. So we'll have to just be satisfied with a view of the great outdoors. Let me go back to this screen here. I do want to say hi to Know That in the chat. Know That asked about the weather earlier. Hi to Mode Eggs, who says, I made it on time. Freddie Wolf and Lolly having a French conversation. Nice to have people who are regulars getting to know each other. And let me scroll back here. Hi to Freddie Wolf, Jeremy Z, Sagar, Eve, Everbright, Darby, Jeremy, CS Team, Hafiez, Kevin. Names that are in a different script, so I can't pronounce, but hello to you as well. Jesse, Teen, Pucci, Nathaniel. I see Nightbot is here as well, making some posts. Good to see that Nightbot is on the job. Hi to Mosa, Abia, Bala, and Zaire. Hey, what kind of lesson is this? You can ask a question, use the form, but you can also have good English conversations in the chat. Maybe you have something else to offer. Sometimes my members will offer little updates or corrections, or they'll do a little research and help me answer the questions. So that is nice. Hi to Paco-san and to Tongkun, Jishad, Kusam, Usama, Yaroslav, Samir, and Mac Tusk. Should we get started? Do you think there's questions already? I don't always know how long it takes before questions show up, but I think there are questions in the chat, so we could get started. Let's go with one more view of the great outdoors. That's not the great outdoors. While I have a sip of tea. I brought water and tea this morning, so let's see. Mode says, I guess the only way for you to do an outdoor lesson in November is to fly to Florida with all your equipment and do it there. Or here's another suggestion. The camera that I'm using for the view out the window, the camera for this view right here is waterproof. So maybe there's a way at some point for me to have, and I'm waterproof too. Maybe there's a way for me to be outside with that camera and myself. We'll see. Maybe I'll try to do a live stream on a nice snowy day sometime. I could sit outside for an hour in the snow, no problem. I just need to make sure I wear the right clothing. That's all that you need to be outside. From Renata, hello, dear Bob. Do you pronounce mischievous, please? Oh, that's how I say it. He's very mischievous. I think some people say I say mischievous. Let me get a good. Are there two pronunciations of that? Possibly. How to pronounce mischief? I probably say it wrong. You know, it's one of those words. Yeah. So when I say British pronunciation, oh, what is the? Yeah, I say it the American way, I think. Mischievous. Kind of a strange word. Thank you, sir. Have a great day ahead. I hope Jen is doing great. Jen is doing great. You'll notice that Jen is not outside. It's raining, so I think she's just having some breakfast in the kitchen. We might see her wander outside at some point, but Walter's there waiting for her. He's just sitting and waiting for Jen to come outside. Walter hasn't grown his winter coat yet. So dogs who are outside a lot in the winter get extra hair. And I think he's still a little chilly, but that will slowly grow over time. Let's see here. Tuba says, I never understand the use of would outside of if clauses. Could you explain, please? Yeah, now it is pretty common to use would clauses with if, right? Like I would be outside if it wasn't raining. I would do a live stream in the winter if I had equipment that was waterproof. So would clauses outside of it, sometimes it's just to be polite. Would you like a glass of water? Would you like to go on a trip? So it's more polite than saying, do you want to? Like it's a softer way of asking it. But I would need to make a full lesson on this to give you a really good answer to us. So let's see here. From Tim, what is the difference between relations and relationships? Is it relation or relationship between countries? So you could say that relations aren't good between country A and country B. But then you could also say the relationship between country A and B isn't good. So it's a slightly different way of describing the situation. You know, does Canada have good relations with the United States? Yes. Does Canada have a good relationship with the United States? Yes. Usually. Almost all the time. Maybe some people not so much. But Kurdish says, Uncle Bob, hi. Hello, Kurdish. My English has made great strides. Now I'm keen on acquiring a refined British accent. Any pointers on where to start? So there are a couple of good English teachers on YouTube. One is Lucy, who has a very nice accent. And then there's also a gentleman, I can't remember his name. He's an older guy. He looks like me, but with a little less hair, and he wears glasses. I forget his name. Maybe someone in the chat does know. But I would start to make sure you're consuming as much British audio as you can. Songs don't really help in that situation because it's hard to hear accents in songs. Let's see here. I'm going to have a sip of tea. Adam says, hello, Bob. Oh, the question's a little bit, let's see if I can move that up a bit. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Sorry, I'm a little picky here. The word is a little hard to see. There we go. Hello, Bob. I really like your videos. I am a C1 English learner, and I encounter some trouble when I read written English research. So we would probably call them research papers. I can't understand a lot of vocab. Yeah, when you get to the C1 level, and when you start to read things that are a little more technical or a little more formal or a little more academic, when you're reading papers and research papers, you're going to run into vocabulary specific to that topic. If you read a research paper about France in the 1400s, there's going to be new vocabulary there. So you're going to have to take the time to learn that. It's one of the things that when you learn English for fluency for everyday speech, you don't need a lot of words, 5,000, 10,000, 12,000 words, and you can get by. But when you move into specific areas like history or computers or technology, you do need to increase your vocabulary set so that you can understand what you're doing. From Lolly Lolly, what about and how about? Same thing. Merci, Bob. Let's see. If you said, I don't have anything to do tonight, I could say, what about going to a movie? Or how about going to a movie? In those situations, they would mean the same thing, you know? There is a slight difference, though, if I think about it. Who should we invite to the movie? How about Bob? Or what about Bob? Yeah, those both work as well. Who's the best dog in the world? Well, I think Oscar's a pretty good dog, but what about Walter? Or how about Walter? Yeah, he's also a good dog too. So it's used to suggest an alternative in a conversation. Conversation. Sorry, my Z pronunciation comes out. Let's see here. From Nastaran. Hello, the best teacher in the world. I don't know how I can thank you for your great teaching. Just say thank you and you're welcome. Would you make a lesson about TV shows? For example, what is drama or sitcom, etc.? Yeah, I could do that. That would be kind of a fun lesson, right? Like, because you can watch a documentary, you can watch a drama, you can watch a sitcom, or situational comedy is the full version. Yeah, I can do that at some point. That would be fun. Let's see here. From Zahir, what is the difference between I used to and I was used to? Okay, so when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike. When I was a kid, I used to play outside a lot. I'm talking about an event or an action in the past that happened repeatedly and doesn't actually happen anymore, right? So when I was a kid, I used to cry a lot. No, I don't think I did. When I was a kid, I used to help my dad and mom on the farm. So it's something in the past that happened more than once that doesn't happen anymore, but it was kind of a familiar or repeated action. When you say you're used to something, I could say this. When I was a kid, I was used to being outside in the winter. I was used to hard work. It means it's something you were familiar with. You're not talking about a specific thing. You're talking about how you did that thing, you know? So I'm used to making videos in public now, so I don't get nervous. I'm used to standing up and teaching in front of a class. It's something that I have become good at. It's something I'm comfortable at. So it has a slightly different meaning. Hopefully that made some sense. Maxime. Hello from Almaty, Mr. Bob. Just want to thank you for your lessons and say that I hope to visit Canada someday. Yes, and as I always say, you should always visit Canada 3 times. Once in the winter, once in the summer, and once in the fall. And if you have time, come in the spring as well. Yeah, we definitely have 4 distinct seasons in most parts of Canada. So make sure you plan to visit more than once. An unknown philosopher. Here we go. Hey, Bob, question 1. What's the difference between reason and reasoning? Question 2. What does the word squander mean? Thanks for the answers. So reason and reasoning. So if someone knows how to reason, it means they know how to logically argue with someone, like not a combative argument, but you could use reason to convince your boss that you need a raise. So you could use some information about other places that pay more. You could use the fact that you work really hard, that you're used to hard work. And then you could reason with your boss. So it means to have it is a bit of an argument, but you're presenting your point. Reasoning is more of a general term, right? Like, he's really good at reasoning with people, or she has good reasoning skills. So they are related, but it's just simply a different way to describe the same thing. What does the word squander mean? It means to waste, usually to waste your money. If you gave a relative $1,000 and they spent it all on candy, you would say that they went out and squandered the money. If you gave a relative $1,000 and they used it to pay off some debt and to repair their car, you would say they spent the money well. But if they just bought lottery tickets, if you gave someone $1,000 and they used it to buy like $1,001 lottery tickets, you would say that they squandered their money. I was just going to check something, right? Difference between... I just don't know if I answered. Reason is referred to as being rational. Reasoning involves using more or less a rational process to think about something. So yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna move on. That is a tough one to describe. Okay, from Ivan, what is the difference between in school and at school? Thanks in advance. Sometimes it means the same thing. So my son is in university, but I could also say he's at university. My younger kids are currently in school. That means that they are of the age that they go to school every day. But if I say my daughter is at school, that would mean she's physically in the building right now. So there is a little bit of a difference, isn't there? Oh, this is a good question. So are your kids in school right now. Oh, yes. Okay. If someone said to me, Bob, are your kids in school? I would say, yes, my kids are in school. My 3 youngest go to high school and my oldest goes to university. But if someone said, are your kids at school right now? I would say, no, they're at home. So be careful, because I think there are situations where it can mean the same thing. What is your son studying at school? You could say that. What is your son studying in school? Both of those work. So I think it flips around. I think this is a good question. And I don't know if I answered it really well, but definitely, yes, you could say that. Yeah. So first of all, in is a general term, meaning they go every day to school. At means they're physically, in the building. Like, my kids aren't at school right now. They're at home. But when you ask what someone's studying, you could say, do you have a lot of classes in school right now? Do you have a lot of classes at school right now? Both of those work. Tricky. English is tricky sometimes. And honestly, I don't think I explained that very well. But I'll have some tea and move on anyways. Why don't you guys have a little, I keep clicking the wrong button, have a little look of the outdoors. I do wish we were out there. I do have to go for a walk later today, so that should be fun. It's also only 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. It's a little chilly, so let's see here. Do I have the next question on the screen already? I don't want to skip one by accident. Yarrow is here. Hi, Yaroslav. Hello, the wisest teacher, Bob. Do you use the word sleepover? Could you please provide an example? Thanks. Be well. So yes, there's 2 forms of this. You can use the phrasal verb to sleep over. I'm going to visit my brother and I'm going to sleep over at his house. That means I'm going to stay the night. I'm going to, probably if they have a guest room, I'm going to stay in the guest room. So I'm going to sleep over. We also have the term sleepover. A sleepover is usually a kid's party where they, instead of coming home when the party's over, they spend the night at that person's house. Sometimes a kid will have a birthday party and we'll say, oh, is it a sleepover or are they bringing you home when the party's over? And then the kid might say, oh, it's a sleepover. I need to bring a backpack and a pillow and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. No, I can't explain this. Could you explain the cleft sentence? What is a cleft sentence? It might have a different term here. We might call it a sentence fragment. Let's see. A cleft sentence is a complex sentence that has a meaning that could be expressed by a simple sentence. Clefts typically I don't know much about this. This is beyond my capabilities. And I'm wondering if we just call it something different. That's the thing with English, right? Sometimes it's a complex, we would just call it a complex sentence with a main clause and a dependent clause. We didn't meet her until we arrived at the hotel. So in English, we have compound and complex sentences. So that's probably how we would describe that. What would I say? I would say listen for these and use writing as a way to practice them. You know, when you're merging 2 sentences together to create a compound or complex sentence, do that in writing first. And then you don't actually need them in English to speak English. And they should come naturally to you after a while if you are hearing and reading a lot of them. Oksana. Hello, what option do we choose? There is a bank. I would say there is a bank on High Street. That is how I would describe it. I'm looking for a bank. Where's the closest bank? Oh, there's a bank on High Street. That's how I would say it. If you used in, you could use in as well, but it would mean like the bank is, let's say there's a bank, there's a building and it has multiple businesses in it, including a bank. You might say, oh, there's a bank in building 12 on High Street. Okay, so that's the only way I would use in. But if it's just a building, I would say that you would just say, oh, there's a bank on High Street. Moat says, the only time I heard the word cleft was in cleft chin. Yeah, I'm going to have to actually research that a bit because that's a new term for me. I'll ask the English language teacher at school. They're usually quite good at explaining things to me that are a mystery. Thanks to Tugba Duran for becoming a member. Welcome to the membership of this channel. Hi to Brent from American English with Brent. Brent's live lesson must be over. And let me get to the next question. Oh, Eugene says he's planning to go to Thailand on November 22nd. Oh, very cool. It'll be cold here, Eugene. In Etobicoke, it'll be cold. So it'll probably be nice to be in Thailand. I'm sure I hope that you have a good trip. Do we all want to see what Walter's doing? Hopefully he doesn't do anything funny. He's still pondering. Oh, there's probably something in the tree. That could be. You think if I whistle, he'll look at us? No, he can't quite hear it. Anyways, back to the lesson. There we go. Next question. Fred from France. Hi, Bob. I don't feel very comfortable with the homonyms advice and advise. Would you like to explain the differences and give examples of uses? Thousand thanks. So when I pronounce the one with the letter C, I say advice. If I don't know how to do something, I might ask Jen's dad for advice. Jen's dad is an older farmer. Let's say I needed to fix something. I might say, hey, can you give me some advice? I need to fix my tractor. The second one with the S, I would say, is the action. So he would then advise me. He would tell me what to do. So he would give me advice, but he would advise me. That is the difference between those two. So it's a subject-verb difference, right? Difference between advice and advise. Advise is a verb that indicates the act of giving an opinion, while advice is a noun that refers to that opinion. So there's your official meaning. Let me see here. Arthur, would you consider recording a lesson with some idioms and figurative phrases pertaining to abilities, skills, talents, etc., and negations thereof? I often forget the negation part. Sorry. I don't know if you guys are fascinated by my dog, but he has just figured out that I'm here. So now he's doing a little stretching show for us. I hope he doesn't sit and stare at us for the entire lesson. I will go outside and go for a walk with him later for sure. Anyways, hi, Walter. Yes, I could do that because, yeah, like when you say someone's good at something, you say that they're an expert. But there's probably some idioms as well that you could use to describe that, or when people aren't good at things, right? So skills, abilities, and talents, and then idioms and phrases. Yes, definitely, Arthur. I will do that. Let's see here. Wendy from Taiwan. Hi, Bob. Thanks for you. Hi, Bob. Thank you for your wonderful English lessons. Do you ride a bicycle? Sometimes, not very often. When I was a kid, I rode a bike a lot. I used to ride my bike almost every day, like when I was 10 or 11. As you can see, we have a long driveway, and I lived here as a kid, and we would ride our bikes up and down the driveway. As an adult, not as much, no. I mean, we do have a couple bikes on the farm, and Jen and I will ride those bikes occasionally, not very often though, but yes, I do certainly know how to ride a bike, and I do sometimes ride a bike. Let's see here from Becker. Do you have any fruit trees on your farm? We're going to change into on. Do you have any fruit trees on your farm? If yes, do you sell fruit as well? That's how I would phrase that. Do you have any fruit trees on your farm? If yes, do you sell fruit as well? No. We used to have a pear tree at the bottom of the hill behind the house. And as a kid, I remember going and collecting pears. We would go pick pears. We would pick pears off the ground and feed them to the chickens. And we would pick pears off the trees. And then we would bring those into the house and eat them. So yes, we used to, but we don't any longer. We could, the only two types of fruit we could grow here would be pears and apples. It used to be quite common for every farm to have a few apple trees and a few pear trees. But now it's just easier to go and buy those things, those somewhere else. Let's see here. Here we go. Aria says, hi, how are you? Watching on a laptop now. What do you know about Japan? Sumos and babies have a great bond, you know. Due to cultural activity, would you hand over your baby? Just kidding. No, I wouldn't hand over my baby. But what do I know about Japan? all I know is this. I've mentioned it before. PewDiePie, one of the biggest YouTubers, has moved to Japan with his wife, and they have a kid now. And so I enjoy watching his videos about Japan. It's a beautiful country. It seems to me like there's a lot of vending machines. That's the one thing I would say. I'm Ron. Hi, Bob. If you had a problem with students, how are you going to solve it? So behavior problem, I think this came up yesterday. By the way, yesterday I did a lesson on the classroom. And I think at one point I did answer it in the question and answer. What I normally do is I like to talk to students one-on-one outside of class. So if 2 or 3 students are misbehaving and I can see that one is kind of the leader, I'll just say, hey, can I talk to you in the hallway for a minute? And then I kind of just explain how I don't appreciate the behavior that I'm seeing. Okay. That's the first step. And then I send them to talk to the principal if they don't listen to me. Eugene says, we will arrive in Paris, France and plan to go to the Louvre. Is anyone living in Paris? Oh yeah, Eugene. So this is Automation Secure Home in the chat. This is Eugene from Etobicoke, who is traveling right now, apparently a lot. And he's going to be in France. So he's asking if anybody is in France. Eugene's a nice guy, by the way. Let's see here. Kaka-chan says, hi, Teacher Bob. What's the meaning of cuckoo? And I saw in someone's question in the live stream yesterday. Thanks a lot. Well, I will let Lolly Lolly and Freddie explain that. It is a term. It is actually a French term. You might hear it in English occasionally, but it's pretty rare for you to see that. It's more of a French thing. In the chat, Jeremy says, hi, how are you, Bob? Thanks for your English lessons. Now I can understand most English when I'm talking to native speakers, but the thing I don't know, why is it that I can't understand a lot about TV news? That's interesting because usually TV news is at a slower pace and the vocabulary they use is usually very straightforward. So I would say read the news before you watch it. That will certainly help a lot. So every day, try to figure out what's happened in the world and read news articles. Learn some new vocabulary and then watch the news. That will help. That will help a lot. I did that with French a lot, where I would read the French news throughout the day. And then at night, I would watch the French news on TV and I would be able to understand it a lot better. From Frida is Learning. Hi, Frida. Hi, Teacher Bob. Do people use education background or educational background? Educational background more often. Are they both the same expression? No, you would always say, what is your educational background? Education background doesn't sound right to my ear. So you might say to someone, oh, you're I'm trying to think of a job. Oh, you work for the government. What educational background do you have? What did you need to study to get that job? So educational background is what you need to say. Where are we at? Oh, 3 minutes to members only. Let's see here. Vinicius Valadas. Hi, Bob. I'm from Brazil. I find your channel by suggestions on YouTube and I am loving it. So I fixed some things there. Okay. Do you have any tips to learn English as a beginner or at the beginning or in the beginning? That's how you could say that. Do you have any tips to learn English as a beginner or in the beginning or at the beginning? So my tips for beginners are to memorize 500 to 1,000 of the most common English words. Like the first step of learning any language, in my opinion, is finding the 500 or the 1,000 most common words and just memorize them. Make flashcards, use Quizlet, do whatever you possibly can. The second thing I would say is some people like Duolingo and some people don't. But I would, if Duolingo is available, which it is, I think, between Brazilian Portuguese and English, do Duolingo. Everything you do is a little bit. Lolly says, yes, cuckoo is a little bit familiar, but not rude. There you go. Nice. Thank you for the explanation. It's just a term of endearment, we would say in English. Ralph says, I'm going for tea. Please all pause the stream right now. Well, I'll have a sip of tea, Ralph, while you're getting your tea. Let me do that. I need a little more sugar in that tea. Okay. Tips for beginners. Good. Forgetful mode. Here we go. Oh, my camera just turned off. Is it still focusing? Good. Hi, Mr. Bob. I forgot to ask yesterday. What's your approach to grading group projects, assignments, and do you let your students choose their partners or do you assign them into groups? Okay. So it depends. Let me move this up a little bit more. It depends on the class. In my upper level French classes, the students are very responsible and I often allow them to choose their own groups. In larger classes and with younger students in grade 9 and 10, I make the groups. My approach to group work is this. There's always two components to how I grade group work. So let's say I'm looking for 6 specific things. Let's say students are going to write a play and perform it for the class. So the students will get an individual grade for their performance during the play. I'll grade them on their acting ability, their pronunciation, their success of making it feel immersive as a play. So each student in the group, so if there's 3 students in the group, they'll each get their own grade for the performance. But then the group will share the grade for the writing portion. So I usually try to make it so a larger portion of the grade is from your individual work. But yeah, so I think that's the best answer I can give. Yes, how will the effect affect you? That's the thing. Yeah. So we're in another situation here where when the sun hits me, the effect it has is that it makes me warm. The effect. Okay. When Walter sits in the leaves, the effect it has is that people might be distracted during the lesson. But then affect is more of the action of doing it. Let's get the official definition here. Affect and affect, noun and verb. So affect is the verb with the A, and it means to impact or change. So the weather will affect the day. Effect is the noun, and you would use it as the result of the change. So the effect of the weather, the effect was that we're having a live stream inside. Let's see here. There's the timer from yesterday. I'm a little tired. I stayed up a little too late last night. So, Vajif, hello, Bob. What is the difference between do you have the time or do you have time? They are the same. Hey, do you have time to come and help me lift something heavy today? Hey, do you have the time to come and lift something heavy today with me? That's a bad example. Here's a good example. Do you have time? Let's do this. Do you have time to come and help me rake the leaves today? Or do you have the time to come and help me rake the leaves? We should go to members only chat. I believe that is where we're at. Let's get to that. So by the way, if you're a member, you'll be able to ask questions directly in the chat. If you are not a member, you can still listen and understand that this is only 10 minutes long, but it's kind of a reward or a perk, an acknowledgement of the fact that I appreciate members. You get time to ask me questions directly in the chat, and I do my best to answer them. Let's see. Mode says, Lolly Coucou is my favorite French greeting because I love birds. And Freddie Wolf says, On peut aussi appeler un vieil avion un vieux coucou. Oh, an old bird. Oh, interesting. And then Lolly says, great explanation, Mode. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing questions from here. And as members, once you start to ask in the chat, I will answer them. Pedro says, what is the difference between lumber and timber? Have a great day. So for me, lumber is a general term for wood of certain dimensions that you can use to build houses or furniture. You know, in Canada, you can go and buy a 2x4. It's 2 inches by 4 inches. We would call that lumber. You can go buy all the lumber you need to build something. When I think of timber, I think of larger pieces of wood. Like when you go to a house that has large timbers, it's usually wood it can still be squared off, but it's usually bigger pieces of wood. And then timber also can refer to the trees in the forest, right? Like they're going to harvest this forest for the timber. That would mean they're going to come in and take the trees out. So that would be my description of the two. Okay, here we go. From the chat, no, that says no problem. Bob took T2. Yes, cuckoo can be a bird. Teacher Bob, this is from Yaroslav. Do you have any hobbies? What is your favorite? Thanks. So my hobbies go with the seasons. I definitely play more video games and read more books in the fall and winter. Okay. So later today, I will probably read a book. I do read during the other parts of the year, but I'm outside more. My other big hobby is just walking. I guess not necessarily. I do it for exercise. I do it for my health. I do enjoy it. Let's put it this way. I walk for exercise, but one of my hobbies is to go hiking because hiking's more enjoyable for me. So a walk is just me walking for an hour to get my heart rate up. A hike would be when I go out in nature where there's lots of trees and paths and trails. And I have other hobbies too, but those would be the main ones. Jeremy, how are you today? And what is your plan for today? I love from mainland China. My plan for today, I'm trying to think. So we don't have a lot to do today outside. The farm is almost cleaned up for the winter. I think we might be going to a music store later today to look for a keyboard, a synthesizer. One of my kids wants to look at one. I'm not sure if he'll buy one, but I think that's it. And I got a little bit of editing to do and stuff. So Know That says, hey, Bob, you once said that there are sometimes snakes on your property. Have you ever been bitten by one? I hope not, thanks. There is only one type of snake here. It's called a gardener snake. And it doesn't usually bite, but even if it does, it's not a big deal. And they're only like this big. Like that's maybe this long. Oh, Walter has decided it's time to bark. I'm not sure if you can hear him, but someone is probably driving in our driveway right now. That would be my guess. So yeah, one kind of snake, not poisonous. There are poisonous snakes in other parts of Ontario, but not around here. Un cuckoo est aussi un oiseau qui sort d'une horloge afin d'annoncer les... Oh, a cuckoo clock. Oh, yeah. My grandpa had one of those. Every hour it would go cuckoo, cuckoo. The little bird would come out. Lolly says, I can see Oscar, but where's Walter? Well, the black dog is Walter. So I actually see Walter, but not Oscar. Oscar's actually in the house right now. Freddie Wolf, Bob, one of the questions was about used to. So I'd like to add, what is the difference between I used to play and I would have played? Can we use these expressions interchangeably? No. So if I say I used to play the piano, it means I actually did play the piano. If I say I would have played the piano, it means you have to finish the sentence. I would have played the piano, but my parents wouldn't pay for lessons. So it actually means you didn't do that. I'm going to leave it at that because there's other little tricky ways to describe it, but that's how I would say those two. I used to play means you actually did it. I would have played the sentence usually ends with explaining why you didn't do it. Yaroslav, by the way, have a good sleep tonight. How would you stay the wisest teacher? Yes, sleep is definitely a good way to stay with it. That's a good word. I had a long week. I don't need to give you all the details, but it's midterms. There's a lot of schoolwork to do. And then last night we were out a little bit later than normal. I went to bed past 10 p.m. Ooh, that's so late. Filippo, hi, Mr. Bob. Have you ever learned to play an instrument? I took piano lessons for about 6 months when I was a lot younger. My sisters took piano lessons and I wanted to learn as well. But I quit after 6 months. I never practiced and I never got any better. So I can play one or two very simple songs, but it takes me a while to figure them out again. Mode, I believe some people use, do you have the time when they want to ask about the time. I heard a British person say that. So it could be another way to ask a stranger what time it is. Yes. Generally though, so that sentence can be finished, right? Like, do you have the time to help me do something? Or do you have the time? Generally, when you're asking for the time, people will quite often do this. Do you have the time? They'll point to where you would wear a watch, just so that it's clear what you are asking. Like if you walk up to someone on the street, a stranger, and say, do you have the time? If you do this, they'll know what you mean. If you're like, hey, do you have the time? It's the same as a long time ago. In a past life, I may or may not have smoked. And you might go up to someone and say, hey, do you have a light? And you would make this little motion to see if they had a lighter. Eugene says, my daughter can speak English, French, and Chinese. I can speak English, Japanese, Thai, and Chinese. Oh, wow. That is a lot of languages. And then Freddie says, yes, we have heard Walter. Yeah, I think Jen let him in the house now. He's probably sleeping in the front. Daniel has given me a super chat. Can you shout out Anna? She loves your videos. Well, hi, Anna. Daniel has asked if I can just say hi and give you a shout out. Hi, Anna. I hope you're doing well. I hope that you continue to like learning English with me. Oh, and there we get a little... Jen doesn't like it when I do this, but Jen is off to the barn with both dogs to feed. We do have a few goats, so she's off to feed a few goats out there in the barn. So, hi, Jen. Lolly says, oops, okay, it's Walter. He has grown up a lot. Yes, he's bigger than Oscar now. Walter is definitely bigger than Oscar. Let me get another question on the screen here. This is from Hung. Here we go. Hi, sir. I am now a B2 student. Very cool. I'm very happy at my result. I have to improve my English skills more. Do you have any advice to help me from level B2 to level C1? Thanks. So this, to me, and this is just my opinion, this is the most difficult level to cross if you are learning on your own. I believe you can learn A1, A2, B1, B2 at home with YouTube videos, with a tutor, speaking to an English tutor once a week. C1 is a bit more challenging. You're really going to need to increase the amount of writing you're doing and get someone to correct your writing. And you're going to need to increase the amount of conversation you're having with someone each week. I would say to move to C1, like I think you can do B1, B2 with about an hour of conversation a week. I think C1, you're at like 4 hours a week. Like you really need to up your game, we would say in English. I would say you need to be able to read complete novels in any subject area very easily. Like you should be able to easily correspond with someone in French via email. Yeah, and you should be just learning tons of new vocabulary to get up to the level you need to. But I always say, to me, I feel like if I wanted to move up to C1 in French, I feel like I would need to live in Quebec or France for a year or for 6 months, and then intensely study the language, I think. That's a big jump, by the way, B2 to C1. Mode says, whoa, a lot of tricky questions today. May the force be with you, Mr. Bob. Here's another tricky one. Do you ever use the term paper tiger? No, I don't use that term. I don't know what it means. Now I have to look it up. This is the day where Bob just looks stuff up. Paper tiger. That claims or appears to be powerful. No, okay. No, I understand the term, but I have not used it. So it's something that appears and looks intimidating, but really isn't. So what would we say in English for that? Yeah, I don't know. New word, though. I'll ask my international students tomorrow. Filippo, can you spoil Brent's birthday to us? I don't know when Brent's birthday is. But when Brent came to visit me, my birthday had already happened. There's another hint about my birthday. Mode says, boo-ha-ha to Filippo. What did Filippo say? Did I miss something? Oh, the birthday. Sorry. It's the question I just read. See, I'm not very with it today. There we go. No, that says, and Bob, what about ticks in the summer? How do you prevent yourself from getting them? Thanks again. We have ticks. We don't have the ticks that carry something called Lyme disease. Okay, so there's two types of ticks, or there's more than two types. We simply sometimes there's a tick and we pick it off. There are a lot of ticks in the early summer. Our dogs have a special medication that kills the ticks. But yeah, definitely ticks in this area. Have to be very careful in May, June into July, and then they usually go away a little bit. By the way, a tick is a little insect. I actually think it's an arachnid. You should look that up. Like, I think it's more of a spider than an insect, but it attaches yourself. It climbs on, and I don't like them. Let's see, Kakachan, paper tiger. Our old chairman said that. No, that says to Mode, I only know that there is a movie called Paper Tigers. And then Dora says, I like your class. I also like Both of two dogs. They are so cute. They are fun. And I like it too because they're always with Jen as she works on the farm. So she has company. In English, we would say it's nice because they keep Jen company while she works on the farm. Let's see here. We're going to go back to normal chat mode. Let me do that. And if subscribers or if members keep asking questions, I will keep an eye out down there. Freddie Wolf says, when I finished my English learning in school, it was far away to be fluent. That's the French main issue, why most French people aren't comfortable with. So it's interesting. So students in Canada learn French in school as well. And in many countries, you will learn a language in school. But it doesn't seem to be as effective as it should be. Like Canadian students, they get hours of French training, but they aren't fluent by the time they're 12 or 13. Even though they have French 2 hours a week, sometimes an hour and a half a week from age 6 to age 12. And I think the same is true. A lot of people learn the basics of English in school, and then when they really start to take it seriously later, they learn a lot quicker. Ralph says ticks are spiders as far as I know. Yeah, I think they're from the same family. I'm not an expert on ticks, but yes. Questions outside. Ruslan. Whoa, Ruslan does not have the first question. Or maybe this is a different Ruslan. Hello, dear teacher Bob. Have, with a V, have, a little correction there. Have you already changed your winter tires? A little correction there. Do you use studded tires or is it just another type of tires? So yes, both my vans have winter tires on them. We had that done this past week. So timely question. No, they are not studded. As far as I know, I don't think studded tires are allowed. Studded tires can wreck the pavement, but it is a different type of rubber that grips better. So it's a little tricky because if it gets too warm right now and you have snow tires on already, they wear out quicker. I think snow tires work best below 8 degrees Celsius. So yes, both vans have the snow tires on. So they'll be able to stop a bit better and get better traction when we drive them. Let's see here. My tea's getting cold. I didn't use a travel mug. Jules says, Teacher Bob, I'm confused on when to use pretty and quite. Like it's pretty busy today and it's quite far. Yeah, it's pretty warm out today. It's quite hot out today. It's not, by the way. It's raining pretty hard. It's raining quite hard. There are a lot of situations where you can just use both of them. That camera was pretty expensive. That camera was quite expensive. You had a pretty long nap. You had quite a long nap. So there is a little difference depending if you use the article, right? Like if you hear what I'm saying, there are, let's see, I'm trying to think of another example. It's going to take me quite a long time to clean up the leaves. We wouldn't use pretty in that situation. Yeah, it's a challenging one. So sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, and I don't know why. That's a tricky question. By the way, you can just, I'm trying to think if you can substitute it. It's pretty far away. It's quite far away. So in those cases, it just means very, right? So I think when it means very, like it's very hot out today, it's pretty hot out today, it's quite hot out today. If you're just using it the same way you would use very, they are interchangeable. That would be what I would say. No, that says to Freddie, yeah, I agree with you. It's like Bob said, learning a language isn't like riding a bike. No, it's not. It goes away. That's the sad part, right? Like they say for language teachers, like if my level is up here, but then I always teach a lower level, eventually my own language skill drops to that level. Not very nice. Ralph says, as far as I read from earlier lessons, he doesn't. Very sad. I'm half Dutch too. Let's see. That's from Leo Zahn. Hi, Bob. Do you speak Dutch? I do not, Leo. Yes. I wish I did. My parents both spoke Dutch. My grandparents spoke Dutch. When I was a kid, heard a lot of Dutch. When my grandparents came to visit, they would speak Dutch with my parents, probably so we wouldn't know what they were saying. I wish I had learned Dutch. That would have been cool. Kaka-chen says, I think Ruslan is a Russian. Today I saw this name in a Russian movie, possibly. And Jeremy says, I like your cup. It looks nice. So this is from Miroslav. Miroslav is an English learner who lives in Michigan. And he sent me a mug. It says, "Love the world, Bob the Canadian." And then a year later, he sent me a second mug for Jen. So that was very nice. So yes, this is my Bob the Canadian mug from Miroslav. Thanks again, Miroslav, if you're watching. Actually, I haven't heard from Miroslav for a while. I should check in on him. No, that says, yes, the most sad thing on learning a language. Yeah, languages are a living thing. It's something that you have to use in order to maintain it. Unsel says, what are you drinking? I think it's decaf orange pico tea with almond milk and sugar. We ran out of honey. Anyways, I should stop answering questions from the chat, or there will be more questions in the chat, and I'm going to answer the rest from the forum. Let's see. Mahmood, hey Bob, your outdoor videos are awesome. Who got you into making more of these? They're so much fun to watch. So when I started the channel years ago, I tried to go out and make videos at as many places as I could, usually every other or every third video. And then when the pandemic came, I just had to make videos at home. And then when the pandemic ended, I kind of got used to just making videos at home. So this past summer, at the end of June when school ended, I thought I need to get outside more. I need to go more places. I mean, I do make a lot of videos outside on the farm, but I've been trying to actually go out places. Oh, sorry, that was a quick. I'm drinking decaf orange pico tea with almond milk and sugar. Did I ever tell you that I'm lactose intolerant? I don't know. I don't know how much personal information I've given away. I can't drink milk. It makes me sick. I can eat cheese. Really old cheese is good. By the way, decaf means decaffeinated. Okay, here we go. From Iris. Hi, Bob. As a student to move to an English-speaking country, I found it really confusing when I am confronted, and you will see them in writing. So yes, learn as many as you can. Abdi says, hello Bob. I'm noticing your view. There's no snow though. I think it's just around the corner. Some of the state already started to snow. Thank you. Have a good one. Yes, we did have a little bit of snow. One night I was out walking and a few flakes came down, but it didn't stay on the ground. It was the ground is still warm here. So even if it's below zero at night, hi Jen. We have a tap in the front of our house, so Jen is filling up her pails. When the ground is warm at this time of year, it can snow and melt as soon as it lands. So let's go here. Rizgar, hello, wisest teacher. I hope you have a great day. Would you describe computer science, particularly IT, in Canadian universities? So there are many different fields to go into in computer science. You can be a programmer. You can go into the hardware side of things. You can go into chip manufacturing. So when you go into computer science or IT, I think like some universities have 7 or 8 different programs that you can go into. I can't go into full detail, but you can look it up on their websites. Lolly says, hi, Jen. Yeah, Jen's got some water. I usually, in the winter, we have a tank in the barn filled with water, but we drain it because it freezes too quickly. Mode says, would you care to do an English lesson at an arena or a hockey rink? I will try to do that. I think I would make it part of another lesson though, like maybe indoor recreational activities in the winter. That's a long title, but something like that. I'll write it down. Freddie says, hey, what happened? Bob was frozen on my screen. Let me check. Maybe it was just you. Maybe there was a little glitch. Yeah, looks like everything's working on my end. I have no dropped frames, so oh well. Ralph says hi to Oscar. Frozen for a few seconds now. Okay, so there was a little glitch. Maybe Jen blocked the Wi-Fi signal when she walked in front. No, that's not possible. All is okay. Good to know. Maybe Jen somehow made it so that you couldn't see her. Maybe she didn't want to be on camera. Vi. Do you know how to call each other when you work in the office? Like call them by last name, or if it's a manager, I should call Mr. plus last name. It depends on your workplace. At my work, we all call each other by our first names. People just call me Bob. Students call me Mr. and then my last name. But even my boss, I call by his first name. But it will be different depending on your workplace. But most places in North America, I believe you would just use the first name. That would probably be okay. Let's see here. From Leo from China. Hi, Teacher Bob. Thank you so much for your teaching, and I've learned a lot. Just curious if your family is not happy with the fact that you spend so much time on this. Well, a couple of things. One, family. My family is happy because I earn a living. So I do go to work and teach at a school every day, and I do earn a living from YouTube. So when you watch ads at the beginning of the videos, I get half a penny or a little bit of money, and it does add up. So even though I spend a lot of time on this, I am only working about 50 hours a week between school and YouTube, which sounds like a lot, but it's fairly normal for someone my age. So my family isn't annoyed that I work on this so much because they understand that in order to pay the bills and buy groceries, someone has to earn a living, right? So, and again, I am part-time at work. So between school and YouTube, like this past week, including this live stream, it'll probably be about 50 hours. Some weeks it's 45 hours. Some weeks in the summer it's 55 when we're selling flowers. But some weeks it's only 40 hours. And then teachers get nice vacations. So I get 2 weeks at Christmas and I get a week in the spring. So that's always nice as well. From Yayo. Hi, Bob. What kind of music do you like? All kinds of music. Mostly, though, like I would say pop music, French music, French rock, rock music, classic rock. I don't really like jazz that much. Sorry, I know I mentioned that the other day as well. Classical, I've listened to everything and like almost everything. From Zool, this is a pretty long question. Hi, Teacher Bob. When do you need to use anyone, anybody, somebody? And do we need to use them with do or does for questions when we need to use any? Thanks in advance. So does anyone need a pencil? Does anybody need a pencil? So those two are interchangeable. Can somebody go buy donuts for the whole class? So that's different, right? When I switch to somebody. So I'm thinking like in a class. Does anyone, like it's a general question, right? Does anyone know the answer? Does anybody know the answer? I'm using those interchangeably. Does somebody know the answer? I don't know. I'll give you some examples. In a class, I might say this. Does anyone know the answer to number one? Does anybody know the answer to number one? Somebody must know the answer to number one. So you see how I'm kind of switching them a bit. I'd have to do a longer lesson on that. But yeah, does anybody, does anyone? That's how I would say it. Dian, hey, Teacher Bob, could you give some examples of go down the rabbit hole? I am quite confused by the phrase, thank you. So this refers to doing a lot of reading on one specific thing for like a few hours or a whole weekend. So you might, let's see, you might go watch a movie and you might really like one of the actors in the movie. And then when you get home, you kind of go down the rabbit hole reading about that actor. You read the Wikipedia page, you read a bunch of news articles about that actor. Whenever you research someone or something extensively, we would say that you are going down the rabbit hole. And I believe it's from Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Is that who wrote that? So you'll have to look up the meaning of the phrase or the origin of the phrase to know that. From MD, hey Bob, can you explain the difference between director and manager, and can they be used interchangeably? It depends on the organization. Generally, a director is at the very top and the workers are at the bottom, and in between there will be managers. So if you work at a very large place of employment, if you have a job where there's like 50 or 100 people, you will probably report to your manager. Your manager is in charge of you, but the director is in charge of the manager. That's That's generally how it is done. I see a lot of questions popping up in the chat. We probably have a few new people popping in. Please use the form, Isabella in particular in the chat. There is a form. Use the form and I will hopefully get to your question, although we are running out of time a little bit. Faisy, hello teacher. First, thank you for your videos. If it's possible to make lessons for our writing, I'll be thankful. So here's my recommendation when it comes to writing. You can go to a website like Preply. There's a link below. And there's a few other ones as well where you could find a tutor who you can pay to have conversations with and who you can send emails back and forth, and they will correct your writing. Whenever you're producing, whenever you're speaking or writing, it's nice to have someone tell you what you're doing wrong. So for me to make a video to tell you how to improve your writing, I can do that. But a key element of learning how to write well is to have someone tell you what you're doing wrong. And I can't do that in a video. That's very difficult. And this is a related question. Dat from Vietnam. I'm struggling with English writing. How can I practice writing in English? You really do need a tutor to practice writing. Now you can do a lot of writing and you can self-correct. You can do some writing and use, I'm not sure right now, but there are web pages that will correct for you. But having someone who you email every other day and then they respond to your email with corrections, that is, in my opinion, the best way to learn. And then last question for the day, and we'll wrap this up. Jeremy, are you considering doing a grammar lesson in the future? I don't know. My next lesson, I have to check my list, but not at this point in time, no. I love teaching vocabulary and phrases on Fridays during a live lesson, and I like teaching everyday English on my recorded Tuesday lesson. I like just going places and teaching, here's what I would say if I was in this place. Hey, that's the end of the lesson. It's 11 o'clock here. It's been an hour. Thank you to the 450 people who are watching. If you're new here, don't forget to click that subscribe button. If you want, there are study packs at the store, although I haven't created any new ones recently, but go have a look at the store. There's some stuff that you can look at. Maybe you can find something that will help you with your English learning. By the way, a study pack, it's things like crossword puzzles and matching exercises that go with a lesson video that I did earlier. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye to Lolly Lolly, Jeremy, Yaroslav, Know That, Mode Eggs, Safen, Rodrigo, Ballon, Kim, Yaroslav, Hafiez, Naomi, Nico. I'm starting to say names twice, but that always happens. Manira, Mimi, Bye Nightbot, Maxime says thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bob, and goodbye. No problem. Fariuz, Ario by Ario. Jeremy says thank you for answering all of my questions. Have a great day. No problem. Unsol, thanks a lot. It is very enjoyable to watch you. I can watch you for hours without getting bored. Say hi to Jen and your kids for me, please. I will, Unsol. Thanks for that. Know That says to Lolly, Lolly, bye. Have a great day. Freddie Wolf, so cool, this Q&A. Thanks, Bob, and bye. Have a great Saturday and weekend. You too. It's probably getting a little cold over there in France too, Freddie. But you should still go outside today and enjoy it. Ralph says, thanks for the lesson. Julie says, take care. Bye to Antonio, Israel, Fariuz, Nastrama, Filippo. Mode says, thank you, Bob the Canadian. Enjoy your afternoon nap. You need it this Saturday more than any other Saturday. I do, yes. Rodrigo, bye. Reki, Leo, bye, everybody. I have to stop saying bye at some point. I'll leave you with a nice view of the outdoors, and I will wrap this up. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.